Just Like Us, for LGBT young people.
Hello, Sarah.
Hey, James.
Also, we are joined this month by Malik. Hey, Malik.
Hi.
Very exciting to have another co-host. What have we all been up to lately? How are we all doing?
I'm doing great. This is very exciting that we've got a co-host, but it's also very stressful.
I'm a little bit scared, but hopefully it'll all go fine.
It'll be fine. This is your debut into podcasting fame, Malik. It's going to be great.
What are we talking about this month?
So this month we're going to be talking about Black History Month because it's October. So this is just PSA, brief acknowledgement that me and James especially know that we're not like people of colour and we're not like trying to be experts on this topic and kind of lecture people, but we wanted just to be like a great chance to kind of learn more and educate ourselves on Black history and like the experiences that people of colour go through, as especially LGBT people of colour. So we thought that would be a really great chance to do that.
Sure. So, Sarah, you're going to talk a bit about the origins of Black History Month.
Yep, I was. So the origins of Black History Month basically it was first celebrated in the UK in 1987, but we were like researching and its origins date back to the USA in the 1920s. And I found out that actually it originally started as just a Black History Week, which was in the second week of February. And like the thought process behind this week has never really been kind of like recorded or dated, but scholars kind of acknowledge that the main two reasons that like Black people came up with this was recognition and importance of like acknowledging Black history. And it was first, like the Black History Month itself as a month-long event was first proposed by Black educators and students at Kent State University in February 1969. And then 6 years later, it was being celebrated all across the country in kind of educational institutions and like centres of Black culture and community centres. And then today, Black History Month takes place in February in the US and in October in Europe. So yeah.
You're listening to Just Like Us, the monthly show for LGBT young people.
So one of the main kind of reasons that we have Black History Month is to celebrate and discuss Black historical figures, and we wanted to talk about LGBT plus Black historical figures and their contributions to the LGBT plus community and the community of people of colour all around the world. So the first person that we wanted to discuss and learn about was Marsha P. Johnson, who is a Black trans woman and drag queen who was kind of credited with spearheading the LGBT plus rights movement in the USA and was credited with throwing the first brick at Stonewall, which is really cool. And I think she got sidelined a lot, and history has a history of being whitewashed and people of colour aren't always allowed their time to shine, which is quite sad. But in recent years, she's been recognised, rightly so. And she was also a really prominent figure in the 1980s during the AIDS crisis in America. And yeah, she was just a really cool person. And a fun fact is that the P in her name stands for Pay It No Mind, which was a response to people asking her about her gender expression.
I was going to say, that's my favourite
really cool.
Marsha P. Johnson fact. As in, aside from all of her amazing activism, that is also just a great like fact to know about her.
Yeah.
And I feel like it sums up like her attitude towards it as well, in terms of like it's very much her identity and her relationship with her identity was the most important thing, rather than it being a performance for other people, which was great.
Yeah, it also reminds me, I saw someone with a t-shirt this week that was like a Venn diagram, and it said my sexual orientation, my gender identity, where I'm from, my religious beliefs, and then in the big circle it was none of your business. And I was like, I really need to find out where you got a t-shirt from.
I actually got to go to Stonewall recently, like the Stonewall Inn in New York.
Yeah, you said, yeah.
Bit of an LGBT flex. But no, it was really cool. I was going to talk a bit about Bayard Rustin, who was an American leader in social movements for civil rights, socialism, and gay rights, and was also Black. So he's kind of like known for a speech that he gave while New York State was in the process of passing the Gay Rights Bill in 1986, which banned discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation in housing, employment, and public accommodations. So it's obviously very important. And he said that just as Black people had been during the times of segregation, LGBT plus people were, quote, the new barometer for social change. Basically, like, we can tell how progressive a society is by the way they treat LGBT plus people, which is a really interesting thought. And, like, he was noted as being, like, a groundbreaking out gay man. I mean, he once said, I was not involved in the struggle for gay rights as a youth. I did not come out of the closet voluntarily. Circumstances forced me out. While I have no problem being publicly identified as a homosexual, it would be dishonest of me to present myself as one who was in the forefront of the struggle for gay rights, which is interesting. And it's, like, demonstrates a real self-awareness of like his place in the movement, but he's undeniably like an important figure. Yeah.
Definitely. I think it's also interesting because he said that he felt very connected to kind of like the civil rights movement and like the kind of black side of his identity, but kind of a bit more disconnected from the community when it came to the LGBT rights movement. So because he'd had to focus on one more than the other, I think.
Yeah, I think it can often be a struggle for LGBT plus people of colour to kind of grapple with those two sometimes quite opposing identities. And it's like, am I gay enough? Am I black enough? Am I enough? And it would be nice for people to be able to just be themselves and still be considered as much a part of both of those communities instead of having to choose them.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it's also, interesting as like a problem of representation as well. Like, well, I mean, most LGBT plus figures in media in general are like cis white gay men. And it's like there aren't models of how to be like a black gay man in 2019, like what that means, because there's definitely like an intersection with those two identities, which can be like great to experience, but it can also be like, like you said, like really hard to figure out how you fit into either and feel like you end up fitting into neither.
Definitely. I was going to say that leads me like quite nicely onto this quote I found from Audre Lorde, who is a black lesbian who was known for like her poetry. And she had a quote that said, "I remember how being young and black and gay and lonely felt. A lot of it was fine, feeling I had the truth and the light and the key, but a lot of it was purely hell." And like that's obviously a very heavy quote, but it also kind of links back to the work the JLU does in terms of like going into schools and kind of like not getting rid of, but like assisting in that kind of time of being very confused and not feeling like you fit in anywhere, and just having one person be there and kind of say, like, I see you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Especially like when we go like into schools with higher percentages of BME students, I feel like that has like such an impact. And that just really reminded me of that. Sure.
Yeah, I think secondary school as well, everything is so intensified and magnified and everything seems like it's the end of the world in a way. So for people like us who are on the other side of it to be able to go into schools and be like, look, we made it through, you can as well. Yeah. I hope that can give people a bit of inspiration. Not to say that we're inspirational people. Cause
no, say it. I think we should.
Yeah. I'll say it. We are.
You're listening to Just Like Us, the monthly show for LGBT young people.
So as we know, in history, it's been a lot more difficult for non-white people to exist in white spaces and be accepted, and especially in the LGBT plus community. But that also carries over to today, and I think a lot of people still struggle with their identities as non-white LGBT plus people. And there have been some recent studies by Stonewall, which have found that 3 in 5, so 61% of black LGBT plus people report experiencing discrimination or poor treatment within their local LGBT plus network because of their ethnicity. And I think I can relate to that. I've noticed that when I've been in environments that are kind of for LGBT plus people, I've noticed that my white friends get preferential treatment in some cases. Like I was going into a nightclub in Manchester's gay village the other weekend, and I was with a group of friends who were all white, and they all breezed past security and it was all fine. And then the person on security who saw me kind of frisked me up and down and then made me empty my pockets and then took my wallet out of my hand, went through my wallet, emptied my wallet, then took my phone out of my hand, took my phone out of its case, was just completely disregarding all kind of senses of personal space and respect, and then gave me everything back and was just like, yeah, you can go in. And I was kind of like, I don't really know if I want to anymore. Yeah. And the only difference between me and my friends was that I'm not white.
Yeah. I feel like there is a tendency sometimes, especially among white LGBT people, that we have a past to do other things wrong because like we're oppressed too, so it's like it's fine. You know, like you get like a lot of gay men being sexist and racist, and they think that it's like cute and fun because they're like, oh no, like I get it, I get what it's like to be a woman because I've had people be homophobic, but obviously that's not.
Yeah. Can I say as a woman as well, and it's not exactly the same, but as in that I've had a lot of things where like gay men feel like they can maybe like invade your personal space a bit more, and like that kind of thing. It's that kind of overstepping of boundaries, which I think can be like very like there's kind of a lack of awareness sometimes, I think, in the within the LGBT community, especially like among like the white cis people, where it can be quite like stressful.
This is a direct calling out of me talking over Sarah on the podcast.
That's definitely what
I just feel like some gay men,
you know.
You're listening to Just Like Us, the monthly show for LGBT young people.
So, If you've enjoyed this episode and you've liked hearing about some of the important black figures in history that are also LGBT+, you should definitely check out the LGBT Foundation on Twitter at LGBTFDN, who are highlighting a different LGBT+ person of colour every day in this month of October.
Great, that's it from us this month. We'll see you again next month. Maybe with a new co-host. Who knows?
Ooh.
The world is our oyster. That sounds like I'm kicking Malik out aggressively.
Yeah, maybe with a new one, because he's not good enough.
I thought you were just kicking me out. I thought it was Malik is the new co-host. And I was like, I'll take it as well. Right, okay. It's been really fun. Okay.
Right. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Just Like Us, the monthly show for LGBT young people. The music was by Twisterium. We come into schools too. Young people, teachers and parents can find us at www.justlikeus.org.